Welcome to ActivInspire Basics. Today we are going to explore the basic features of ActivInspire. You can download this flip chart from the Edmodo group or the Moodle group from which you found it. Let's get started. If you've got an active board in your classroom, there are several tools that you should become familiar with to use your board. One tool are the pens. Older model pens have an orange trim around them and only work on the light gray colored active boards. The newer boards have two pens. The dark gray pen is considered the teacher pen, and a smaller, lighter gray pen is considered the student pen, and we will cover those differences later on. Another tool that you will find is a wand. Wands are great for students who are vertically challenged or might have physical disabilities that prevent them from reaching to the top of the board and extends their reach to interact with the board. One of the first things you're going to want to do is to calibrate your board. Calibrating the board can be done in multiple ways. One way to do it is to hover your pen over the top right corner of a board as shown on this screenshot. Once you do that, you will just follow the on-screen calibration instructions and touch your pen at several spots as indicated by the on-screen instructions. I'm going to do that now. First, I will click on the surface, and I will carefully touch inside the white spot of the crosses, and they will move around the board. This helps the board get a very good read as to where you are. So as I'm touching the board, you will see that the arrow follows me very nicely. In Frederick County Public Schools, there is one suggested way to launch ActivInspire. That way is to use into your application menu and choose the productivity folder and choose Launch ActivInspire. If there are any updates to ActivInspire, you will receive them by launching this way. Sometimes people will find an ActivInspire icon on the desktop. It is not recommended to use that unless you're certain that you have the most up-to-date version of ActivInspire. If you get a notification from the software that an update is available, we ask you that you do not update, because tech services will take care of that remotely when they have available time and or it becomes necessary to do so. One of the things that you'll notice is at the top of the screen you'll see several menu items. These menu items are similar to that in Microsoft Word, whereas you have the File menu, Edit, View, Insert, Tools, and so on. Okay? You'll also notice that there is a tab right here which has the title of this flip chart. This flip chart is called ActivInspire Basics, and you will see other tabs across the screen if you have multiple flip charts open. These menus are analogous to what you might find in the toolbar. The main menu has a button where if I type it or I tap it, you will also see File, Edit, View, Insert. It's important to know that these are here because it is possible that these menu items up here might go away if you touch the wrong button accidentally or on purpose. When you start ActivInspire, the dashboard will show up. The dashboard has several shortcuts over here on the left-hand side that allows you to do certain things. One of the more common things that you can do with the dashboard is to configure and register devices such as an active vote or an active expression. Those will also be covered in another video later in the series. ActivInspire has several menu items that are open, and you can do several things to organize your screen layout. One of the things that you can do is called pinning. Over here on the left hand side, as I take my mouse over here and the what's called the page browser will show up. And the page browser will show you thumbnail images of all of the pages in the flip chart that you're using. Mine is pretty big, so I can take my mouse and go to the edge right here where it becomes a double arrow. I can shrink it so it's not quite as large. I can also take, this slider down here, and I can shrink that so I can see more than one thumbnail at a time. But notice that if I go about working elsewhere on my flip chart, it will go away. It does what it kind of does an auto hide. If I want my browser window to stay open, I just simply open it up and I go to the top right corner. At the top right corner there's a little button called Pin the Toolbox. When I click it, it will turn yellow. If you are using the primary look, it will turn red, and it will stay put. It will stay put. Notice that the flip chart page itself adjusted its size so that you don't lose any of the text or graphics that are on the page. Another thing to help maximize your space is a tip called rolling up the toolbar. Now in the studio look, there's a button in the middle. There are three of them up here. The button in the middle rolls up the toolbar so it shows only the real essential ones, the next page button, the previous page button, and your main menu button. If you're using ActivInspire, the primary look and feel, there's only two buttons, and so it's the button on the right. It will roll that up and you'll see just the next page, previous page, and others. In ActivInspire, the studio version, you can pin and unpin this so that it hides. I usually leave it pinned just because it's easier to get to. There's also another setting that tells you whether to dock the toolbar on the right, as it is here. It's over here on the right, or dock it on the left. If I hit the left, it slips over to the left. If I dock it back to the right, it snaps back over to the right, and I can then also dock it down to the bottom to make it easier to reach. I prefer having it to the right, but if you're using the studio version with students, you may want to put it to the bottom because it's easier for them to get to. However, you may want to consider, if you've got younger students, to use the primary look simply because it is more kid-friendly and you can see there are fewer widgets and buttons on the toolbar for them to deal with.